Hey guys, welcome to the Hanger Management Podcast. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Jack, and we're psyched you're here because we're talking about gluten. Gluten. That's gluten.
Just love gluten.
I also love gluten. I'm so glad we're talking about this. But not in the way you guys might think. Okay, so before we dive into the episode, as per usual, a couple of housekeeping things. Number one, this is not a kid-friendly show. We like to swear. So be warned. Number two, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Hanger Management Pod and our personal IGs, which are below. And lastly, we are operating remotely. Huge shout out to Opulence Media Group for getting us set up. Thank you guys so much. So yeah, let's get into this.
Okay, I want to ask the question. What is a gluten? Why do we think that's so funny to call it a gluten?
A gluten. Because for me, I'm sorry, in the movie, this is the end when Seth Rogen is talking about gluten and what he's talking about how he's in LA and everyone in LA is gluten-free now because everything that's bad is a gluten. So that's a gluten.
That's God. That's a gluten. Yeah.
That there is a gluten. That's a gluten. That made you unhappy? That. Oh, that's a gluten. We just got to cut that out. That's a gluten. That's literally what I think that's a gluten. So what is a gluten? Okay. I actually found out about gluten and what it actually is, because even though in my in our nutrition courses you learn about various disorders and all this stuff and allergies, and you learn about gluten generally as an allergy, right? Or sensitivity. I didn't learn what fucking gluten was until I watched the Great British Baking Show. Okay.
And she would watch it on the treadmill too.
Oh yeah.
She used to literally watch the baking shows.
Favorite thing
on the treadmill.
Yeah, actually, you watched the Great British Baking Show vicariously through me every single cardio session we ever did.
Yeah.
Shout out Throwback Thursday to our cardio talk.
Shout out cardio.
Yeah, no, I would literally that's what I used to watch while I was doing cardio. But also, I love baking shows and cooking shows and baking in general. And I literally had no fucking clue what gluten was until Paul fucking Hollywood on the Great British Baking Show explained what gluten was and what deliciousness it brings to our foods.
Yeah. So what is gluten then?
Yeah,
I have to Google it once a month. I mean, if I'm being honest, I'm literally always forgetting what gluten is. I don't know why. It just doesn't stick with me. I just know that
it's a gluten. You just know it's bad.
Well, I don't think it's
No, okay, so let's talk about what is gluten. Gluten is a protein that's a part of grains, right? So certain grains, not all grains, some grains. It's part of the grain itself, the protein part of it. And so things like wheat, barley, rye, it's part of that grain that essentially creates stretchiness, or it creates the texture, right? It creates the texture for that that grain, which provides when you bake it.
Yeah, when you bake it, because it gets wet and it almost turns into this glue that fluffs things or makes them chewy, essentially.
Chewy. It brings the
Here's
chew.
the word.
Bread. Yeah, chewy is the word. So bread and pizza doughs, and any
donuts.
Donuts. All the good stuff. No,
Yeah.
it's that component that's like stretchy.
Yeah.
And like if you just think about a couple different kinds of breads, for example, like if you think about like a French bread, like a baguette versus say, like a scone, right? Or something
Mhm.
like that. Obviously a French baguette would have the gluten a lot more produced or worked than the scone, because a scone is crumbly, right? It has that
Yeah.
crumbly fall apart texture, whereas the bread, you really have to rip it apart. It's got that stretchy like chewiness, and
So
that
it's
is
also
the
how you
gluten.
work the gluten during the
Okay,
baking process.
yeah,
See, I'm just
exactly.
learning this
Oh,
right
God
now
bless
because
you.
I
I
don't
love it. Yeah.
bake.
So that's like when you're making bread and you see people like fucking slapping around the dough, right? And like
Yeah.
hammering the dough and kneading the dough. That is producing and working the gluten and making the gluten, the proteins, tougher. It's
Oh
what
my
creates
God.
more elasticity. Yeah. So that's
I
what
thought they
happens.
were being so dramatic, tossing it in
No,
the
you
air and
have
like
to do it.
beating the
No, yeah. So the pizza dough, I mean, the centrifugal force for tossing pizza dough is separate. That's a different thing. We can talk about that
It's a
another time.
different type of drama.
But yeah,
So
but when they're kneading the dough and you see like people like slapping the dough against it, like that's actually working the proteins in the and the gluten to create that elasticity that everyone fucking loves in like
oh
bread
my God,
and
this is
baked
making
goods.
me laugh so hard because it's literally taking me back to my kitchen days when I would like read a recipe and it was like, you need to do it with a wooden spoon for this long. And I'm like, please, I'm just going
Fuck
to throw
it.
it in the food processor and call it a day. And like, I'm just realizing now all these
How
recipes
important,
that
yeah,
didn't
like
turn out.
oh yeah, like why they didn't turn out. Baking is like it's a science. That's why I love it so much. Like it really is a science. And like especially like when it comes to bread, like bread is so cool. Like it's like 3 to 4 ingredients you can make bread. Like it's wild. You can make pasta with just flour and
I saw
water.
you do that in your story. I think
You
I'm
know how I did it? Gluten. I'm
gluten.
dead serious. I'm dead fucking
She
serious.
grabbed a gluten. No, I'm just kidding.
Next, you're gonna add your gluten. No, it was literally so you can make pasta. Literally, you can make a dough from just flour, like all-purpose
Yeah.
flour and water. You mix that together. You knead that dough, that mixture, and you produce gluten that creates elasticity, and like that's a dough right there.
Oh
So
my God, this is so educational.
I'm so excited to be talking about baking. Like this is so like I didn't realize it was gonna go down this path, but I'm so
Me
happy
neither,
about
but I
it.
was just like getting flashbacks to me in the kitchen and like reading recipes and being like, why is this recipe telling me to stir it like this and use my hands? I'm like, I'm
Hands.
not using
Yeah.
my hands.
Yeah. For specifically like 5 to 8 minutes, not like 2 minutes. And like
Yeah,
it
for me it's like 2 and then they're just like, "Oh, let it
looks
sit
good.
for 10." And I'm like, "I'm not letting it sit for 10. It's all going in the pan."
I love it. Yeah.
Okay,
No,
that's
like
good. Okay,
so
cool.
I'm so excited. I want to go bake now. But listen, that is what the gluten is. That's what gluten is. Now, I gotta stop saying that.
I love it.
No. I guess let's just dive right into this because we don't really have to spend long on this.
No,
Because honestly, it comes down to one thing. Who should avoid gluten, right? There's only
celiacs.
people who are allergic to gluten. Like,
So yeah.
those are the only like thank you
And
for
then
coming to our TED Talk. No.
thank
That's
yeah,
it
so
though.
so celiac, we'll just talk real quick. Celiac is it's an actual allergy to gluten, or it's technically an autoimmune disorder,
It's an autoimmune disease.
where your body will literally like attack the gluten that's in your blood and also your intestinal lining, like your gut. So
And you
it's
can there's
super,
lots of responses and different reactions that people have to it, but it's
yeah,
essentially an allergy to gluten. So
yeah,
there are people who actually have allergies to gluten, and those people can ingest like nothing in I'm
and
sorry,
have a
Gin is
flare.
snoring. I'm sorry, Gin is snoring. I just need
Oh, I'm
to I
so
know, God
jealous
bless.
of
I know,
his
God
sleep.
bless. He's okay. You're good, buddy. I know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, buddy. I know, my bad. He's so upset at me.
Give them some
But there are
gluten.
there are people who are actually allergic to gluten, like, and they can't have any of it. Like I've seen like people who react to, you know, they get a salad in a restaurant, right, and it has like croutons on it, and they'll send the salad back, and instead of actually like making a new salad, they just like pick
They'll
the
just take
croutons
it
off.
off back
But
there.
and that person who has celiac will literally like they've reacted to that little bit
Yeah.
of gluten, right? So like it's a very real, you
Yeah,
know,
it's very
it's a
serious.
very serious allergy for some people, right? Like this is a very, it's not, we're not, that's not really what we're talking about here though.
No.
Right? What we want to talk about is this new trend. It is like when in the last couple of years, there's a trend for people to use or go gluten-free
Mm-hmm.
for weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
that's
it's so
really it.
funny because we were talking before this and I was like, wait, do people actually go
You
gluten-free to
didn't
lose
even
weight? Because I'm
know.
just
You're
so oblivious. Like I have lots of people who like they'll
like,
just
I'm
say like
gluten-free.
they don't want or they'll feel bloated if they have gluten, which is fair because there's also hypersensitivities and IBS as well, which we're not going to get into. Yeah, maybe you can be also sensitive to gluten, but I think a lot of people don't actually realize like things that are gluten-free. Like people think that it's going to be quite difficult for me to make them a meal plan that's gluten-free, but it's actually not difficult at all because it's like just all whole foods.
Yeah, it's really not much different. So
There's
that's, and
really
I think
no gluten in most things.
you literally, like we said,
You would
it's
actually be
grain.
shocked.
Yeah, it's actually very few things that like really like have gluten. So if you're eating like a really like whole foods based, you
Yeah.
know, diet anyway, like you really don't have to worry about it. I think a lot of people, and there is a trend. Let's just like get it out on like the table here. There's like this trend for people to think that, you know, if they're struggling with their weight, or, you know, they're having, you know, issues, they want to, you know, lose weight or whatever it is, they immediately think, oh, going gluten free is going to like solve all my issues.
Yeah.
Like
And you do,
there
yeah.
is
You hear it a lot.
all the
A
time.
lot.
People are like, oh, I'm having, you know, I want to lose weight, so I went gluten free. Like I heard there's like inflammation and like it causes all this other stuff. And like I'm not saying, I don't know, I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to get into that. All I'm saying is going gluten free will absolutely not help you lose weight inevitably.
No.
Like, or like by itself, like just like in and of
Like
itself.
if you're purchasing the gluten-free products, especially.
Okay, so let's talk about that, right? Fuck. Like, oh, like I'm eating gluten free. Like I'm gonna buy. Let's talk about like the
I'm
actual
trying to
gluten free
even think of
products.
like the products that are gluten-free. Like, well,
Oh my
there's
god,
obviously bread and wraps and those types of things, but I'm just
and
like, okay, if you don't have celiac,
pasta,
you'd be better to get like a sprouted grain bread.
right? Or like even like
Yeah.
some. That's what I'm
Oh,
saying. Is like
pasta.
you're
Yeah.
like pasta. Like people are like, oh, I'm gonna get like gluten. Like I think there's like this correlation. I could be like totally off here, but from what I've seen, people like have this made up correlation between gluten free and like lower carb or something, or do you know what I mean? Like
Oh,
I think like there's like there
maybe.
seems to be this correlation between like gluten free
Which,
and
you know what?
or
That's fair because I think like I said before, I think a lot of people don't really actually know what gluten is. So I think they
yeah,
just assume gluten's a carb.
yeah, that's what I mean.
Is that
So they
fair?
end
Yeah,
up,
I feel like
yes,
that's yeah.
yeah.
And
So
so
what
they think they're eating, yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
so
they
what
think they're eating low carb.
happens, and so that's what happens, I think, a lot is they think by what they think by
Be-
going gluten free, they'll inevitably end up cutting out carbs. And
Yeah,
I think for people who do see progress, like that's kind of what
that
ends up
could be
happening.
it.
They're cutting out carbohydrates. But for people who then start to look for like the replacement items,
Yeah.
right? Those like gluten free versions of things,
Yeah.
those things often are actually way worse, both nutritionally and like both micro and macronutritionally.
Yeah.
So not only are they like like higher in calories, higher in carbs, higher in fat, like all that stuff, but they also contain like very little like
Nutritious. Yeah.
nutrition, right?
They're
Like
just they're highly processed versions of packaged
Yeah,
food.
packaged
So
food. It's
they're
in order
higher
to
calorie, like
it's a
first of all,
they're higher calorie and
usually.
like and that's like they're the good option. They're a good option for people who again actually need those things.
Yeah.
They can't eat the
They
regular
literally can't have
yeah,
breads and then they just want bread. So
or
like,
like yeah, like graham crackers even or like cookies,
yeah.
like packaged things, packaged items, you know what I mean, that you would be buying if you weren't gluten free.
Hmm.
Those are the things like the gluten free version of those are not healthier.
No,
It's just
no.
they're not healthier. So I see like a lot of people
They're
are like,
literally,
oh
yeah, they're like literally designed for that celiac that is truly missing that type of thing. And it's not as a
yeah,
replacement of to be healthier. It's
it's
just so they
not.
can
Yeah.
enjoy something
Some
that would have
some
had gluten.
right, exactly. And I think honestly that's what this entire episode comes down to at the end of the day is literally people just like again seeing this thing
Thinking that it's
and it
related to
comes
losing weight.
and why? Because we see like famous people who look good and have like a good, you know what I mean, like
Mhm.
physique promoting gluten-free diets. And like people just automatically make the correlation between, you know what I mean, looking like that person and having like the health that they do and having like,
Mhm.
all the awesomeness that that person has by being gluten-free. And it's just
Also, yeah, and like if you're gonna go gluten-free, okay, it takes up to 3 months to actually eliminate it all from you. But these people who are gluten-free and like maybe they'll have a free meal and then they'll go and get donuts and pizza. It's like you're never actually like though getting it out of your system for your
yeah.
gluten-free diet if you're having something here and there every week as well.
Honestly, and like I didn't even I didn't even like look at that far into this if I'm being honest
Well, I
because
just remember because I've heard of people like just eliminating it before they got tested and
yeah.
it's way easier. Like if you're wondering if you're celiac, it's just way easier to go get a blood test because doing the elimination diet for
Oh yeah.
gluten-free
Oh,
takes forever.
actually okay, yeah, should we actually just quickly talk on that? A lot of people
Yeah.
like cuz that is a big thing now, like sensitivity to they're actually
Yes.
teaching it in curriculum in nutrition like in the Canadian School of Natural
Yeah.
Nutrition and like in different like holistic nutrition courses. You're seeing people like that's what they're teaching now is that gluten a lot of people have a sensitivity to gluten.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't actually looked at the research, so I'll just be outright about it. Like maybe a lot of
Yeah.
people do
I
have a
do.
sensitivity to it,
Yeah.
fine. But
I do think so, but
yeah, like at the end of the day, though, if you're not having a problem, there's
yeah.
no issue. Like
Yeah, if there's no problem and if you're trying to like it's just
if you
easier to
think
just go
it's
get
going
the
to
testing
elevate,
done.
yeah, if you think yes, just if you think there is, go get testing. But even for unless you actually have the allergy, there's no way to actually confirm, if your symptoms are, you know what I mean? There's really no way even to say like, oh, you if you have sensitivity, right? Like
Well, there
there's
are
no
blood tests now. I'm not sure how accurate they are, but this is what I've learned about sensitivities is
Mhm.
like you can get the blood testing done. It's not covered, like no doctor will do it. So it's like naturopaths, like you said, that are doing it. But your sensitivities can change all the
That's what
time.
I
So
mean. And
like
it
you
depends
would
on what
have
you're
to get
eating.
your blood tests, you would have to get it tested like every 4 weeks. And like 1 week you could literally be sensitive to like steamed broccoli. And
Yeah.
then like 4 weeks
Yeah, yeah,
later
and I see this
it's
a lot
fine.
with people testing. Yeah, so it's to
So it's
me, it's one
not,
of those
yeah.
things that you can't over rely on, and like
No.
it's I just really truly do think a lot of people hear, oh, you should go gluten free or whatever. They hear these things and they just
Mhm.
try it without really thinking about it, and like they don't realize that there are some negative impacts to those. For example, like you could be you know what I mean? You could be doing just fine, like making great progress. And then all of a sudden, so and so Susan down the street says, oh, by the way, I like lost an extra 10 pounds, like going gluten free. And all of a sudden you like try to go gluten free, wind up eating more calories than you were before, like undoing your progress. Like it's just,
Yeah.
if everything's going well, like, you know what I mean? Don't fuck around, right? Like
Yeah.
don't, there's no need to overthink or, you know what I mean? Try like crazy different things that you hear going on and like trending
It's
just because it worked for
trending.
someone else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right. Like that's my biggest
Mhm.
thing. If something's not bothering you, like
Keep it.
we good. Like there's no issues. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
no, I don't
totally.
know. I've tried like you said, like I've eaten gluten-free just like
Not
inevitably,
intentionally.
not
Yeah.
intentionally, just because like I was eating like whole foods or like whatever I was doing.
Yeah.
I wasn't eating a lot of packaged foods or whatever. Like I've eaten gluten-free, but it's like I think that's
I didn't mean to. Yeah, it's like just no bread
not
really for me would because I mean you're good to eat rice, you can have oatmeal, you can have potatoes, like none of
potatoes.
those things have gluten.
Oh my god, everything that says like gluten free on the package, like if it's like a whole
If
item,
it's
like
rice.
again, it goes back to like the keto fucking smoked salmon, like
Yeah. It's really only helpful for someone who has like celiac if it's like
yes,
a grown substance. So like we
yeah.
were saying before, like
Mhm.
because I was like,
Oats.
why? I was so pissed. I was in the grocery store and I was like, why is this saying like gluten-free oats?
Yeah.
Oats are
Of course it's
gluten-free.
gluten free. This great.
I'm
Yeah.
like, what? Anyways, and then I'm getting up like reading about it and like, okay, it's fair. Some farmers will grow their oats next to the barley, which contains gluten, so they can be
So there's
contaminated, which
contamination.
can be
Yeah.
bad for someone with celiac, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't affect anybody else.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'm glad I looked it up because I was so pissed. Like, you
Piss,
should have saw me. I'm
they
like,
again another
and
one
then
of
I was
those like
questioning myself.
the
I'm like
label.
now Googling, like, are oats gluten free? Like, doubting myself.
Yeah. No, I get it. Like those labels that again, it goes back to like labeling and marketing on
Yeah.
packaging, right? On food packaging. It's like they slap gluten-free on it and people are like, "Ooh, healthy." Like when in no way, shape,
Yeah.
or form does that indicate health or better for you in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think that's about wraps it up, I'd say, for gluten. That's a
That was
gluten.
that was a quickie.
That was a quickie. It was good though. I feel like that, you know what I mean? We don't have to get into like the
No, I
science
loved
or
that.
anything.
It was
Yeah.
I loved that for us. That's about it, folks.
Oh, we covered her there, eh? So thanks for joining. No. No, seriously, guys.
No, seriously though, thanks for joining.
Thanks so much. Shout out to Opulence Media Group for getting us set up once again. And yeah, thanks so much for joining. What are we chatting about next week, Danielle?
Next week, we're going to be chatting about a sugar.
A sugar? Like a gluten?
We're chatting about sugar next week.
Sugar. Oh God, sugar. Oh, sugar.
Oh no, sugar. Oh, sugar.
Sugar. That's like my mom's like favorite saying. Oh, sugar. Sugar. I never did say it. Well, maybe it's because I don't have kids, but like I just say shit.
Oh,
Why would you
I
say
don't say sugar. I just say shit.
Well, Sage is also young, so soon you might have to like pull back on the swearing.
Someday it's going to be her first word. So yeah, I better like rein it in. Start. And so that sugar is her first word.
Yeah, which is just as bad to some people. Did you know sugar is just as addictive as cocaine? Well, Susan, sounds like you haven't done cocaine. Sorry. Did I say that out loud? Are we still recording?
Oh, we're still recording. This is killing me. New merch. Anywho.
So anyway, we'll talk more about sugar next week on Please Don't Tell My Mom. I mean, on Anger Management Podcast. Thanks so much for joining.
Bye.